Last time on the Skip and Josh podcast.
Especially when, like, let's say one person will send an email to, let's say, 5 different people, and then someone replies to all, and then someone else replies to all, and then someone else replies to all. Next thing you know, you have like 10 emails when you really didn't need all 10 of those emails. But what's even worse is, like, some of those reply to alls might have had important information in them. But the ones that say, thanks Julie, or thanks Steve, or good idea Joe, like, I don't need those emails.
The Skip and Josh podcast is on now.
Hello.
Hey, Skip.
Hey, how's it going?
Great. How are you?
Really good, really good. I'm glad we're recording again in the afternoon.
It's actually not even afternoon yet. It's still morning.
It's true, but I mean it's not early, so I'm like a little more peppy, a little more awake.
Yeah. This is a good time to record.
Sometimes I feel like we're both a bit sleepy on those early morning records.
Mm-hmm. Let's not do those again.
Let's not do those again.
It's too early.
Well, I mean, as the listeners know, this isn't our full-time gig, right? We have
I wish it was, though. I really wish it was, because it'd be great if we got paid to do this and I didn't have to do anything else.
I would love that, actually. So, we record when we can, and sometimes our personal schedules, our work schedules, get in the way of things. So
absolutely.
I wanted to, before we get into like our regular topics, I wanted to welcome any new listeners, because we've done a little ad campaign this week and we picked up some new subscribers. So I just wanted to welcome all the new listeners out there, and thank you for subscribing, thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoy our show. I had texted you early in the week, Josh, because I had some kind of revelation about like how to describe our show. I don't know how come it only dawned on me on episode 82, right?
Well, I'm curious to hear the description because I can't describe it either.
Well, I'm going to try to put it into words. So, we talk about sports, and like one of the sports talk shows that we both love is PTI, Pardon the Interruption, on ESPN. And they were really the pioneers of the rundown. So like on the right-hand side of the screen, the list of topics that they're going to do in rapid fire during the course of the show. Mm-hmm. And as far as I know, PTI was the first show to ever have the rundown, And now it's basically, And basically every sports talk show, every network, politics, sports, every show everywhere has this format, right? Like with the rundown. So our show has kind of like an invisible rundown.
Yes.
Because obviously the listeners can't see. Yeah. Listeners can't see it because, now not only is it invisible to the listeners, but it's also invisible to us.
That's right.
So you have your rundown and I have my rundown, but I don't know what you're going to bring to the show, and you don't know what I'm going to bring to the show in terms of topics. But what makes the show great is that many times we are like right on point, and we are like, we got to talk about this, and we know we are reading each other's minds, in a sense, and we know exactly where we're going. So all that to say, I hope you enjoy our show, and let's get started. Like, what do you want to talk about?
Well, actually, I want to add on to that. I had written something down that I wanted to talk about, and it fits in well with what you just said.
Oh, go for it.
So it has nothing to do with sports, but I listen to other podcasts as well besides ours, as you know, and you listen to other podcasts too.
Oh, tons.
And one thing, obviously I love our own show, and I'm only going to say good things about our own show. But one thing I'm going to say is the sound on our show is excellent.
Well, thank you.
The content, you can say what you want about the content, but the sound quality is phenomenal. I've listened to other shows where the sound quality is not as good, and it's annoying to listen to those shows.
Sometimes, yeah.
But ours, considering that you've got this, like, I don't know, some makeshift setup in your basement where sometimes, you got to jiggle a cable for things to work. And somehow, like, when I listen to the show, it sounds great.
Yeah.
So,
it's so true. Like you said, I listen to a lot of podcasts, right? I just showed you my screen earlier, and I showed you all these podcasts that I listen to. So for example, Bill Simmons, right? he's got the whole Ringer network. This is a huge podcast network with dozens of different shows, and he has a huge budget, right? I mean, this is big time. This is mainstream. Bill Simmons, and yet on like Monday during the NFL season, his buddy cousin Sal calls in, and they discuss like the predict the lines, and they recap the week that was in the NFL. And sometimes Sal sounds like he's like calling in from like an airplane over Russia.
And
right?
and in fairness to Bill Simmons, he's at the mercy of Sal's cell phone.
I guess, but like I just find that like when I listen to mainstream shows and I hear their audio quality is not good, I'm like, wow, I'm amazed because me and you,
we have a budget of 0.
Can get the sound almost perfect every time.
Even though we have no budget whatsoever, and we're not getting paid millions of dollars from anybody, and we have no high-tech equipment, and we're 500 kilometers away from each other, and our sound quality is excellent.
It's great.
Now, the content of the show is a whole other story.
Well, I mean, we like the content, so that's what counts.
Right.
Yeah. Actually, listening back to the last episode, I listened back to it like a couple days later after we posted it, and there was a part where all of a sudden my voice got louder. And I was like, oh man, how come that happens? Like, because that never happens, right? I was so surprised. I was almost going to go back in and redo the file and fix it up. And I was like, I didn't have time, so I just left it. But it's like little things like that. It was like, would really like, I hear them right away, and I'm like, I was shocked. I was like, that's never happened before,
Well, we don't have, sometimes I'm closer to my mic, I'm further away, same with you. And we don't have a board operator.
Exactly.
Because again, no budget.
Yeah.
So it's hard to adjust the levels. And then sometimes you, as you said, you have to go back and fix it, but that takes forever. Who has the time or the patience for that?
No, I mean, once I do it once, it's over. All right, so let's get into the week that was. Do you want to last week we devoted a huge segment to the NHL trade deadline?
Yeah.
Do you want to you have anything more to add to it, or?
I have a couple of little things. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm not even going to, there were a bunch of trades that were made on Monday. A general comment I'm going to make about the trade deadline is it's funny. Sometimes a really good player will get traded. Like, for example, Paul Stastny, in my opinion, is a good player. Yeah. He's an impact player that's going to make a difference. I'm surprised that any team that has a guy like that would trade him away because he's not exactly old and he's still good. And the Blues could still make the playoffs, but, whatever.
I mean, they're on the outside looking in right now, but I mean, they're not like in last. They're still fighting for that spot.
Exactly.
Although, I don't know if you heard the comments from their coach this week. He basically called his team like a bunch of bums and he said they suck. Like it was the most harsh comments I've ever heard from a coach in so long.
Since Mike Zimmer commented on Case Keenum.
Because they're getting killed, right? The Blues are on a terrible losing streak, but they're giving up like 5 goals like every game, they're getting killed, right? So I guess they threw in the towel.
I guess. But what bugs me about the trade deadline is sometimes most of the trades are like, these third or fourth line guys or like, a fifth or sixth defenseman. And they're not really impact trades. But yet, when you tune into either TSN or Sportsnet, whichever one you want, they'll find a trade and they'll talk about this guy, like if it's Mark Letestu, for example. Oh my God, I can't believe Mark Letestu got traded and now this is what he's gonna do for his new team. And like, it's Mark Letestu. Like, let's not make him into the second coming of Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And the other thing that I find interesting also is when you watch the trade deadline telecasts, whether you watch on Sportsnet or TSN, or I mean, if you're in the United States, I guess you're watching my girl Jackie Redmond on the NHL Network.
Yeah, definitely your girl. Definitely yours.
Yeah. And they tell you, like, at the end of the day, there was 19 trades today, which is like, there was 18 last year, and we're right on the number we usually get. But like you said, they're all like this guy for a 5th round pick or that guy for a 6th round pick. And like, there's basically like 3 trades.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Rick Nash got traded the day before the trading deadline. Paul Stastny got traded and Ryan McDonagh got traded, and that's it.
Yeah, and there I think there was one other like important player. I forget who it was now, but
maybe there was. But I mean, suffice it to say, they're on from 9 o'clock in the morning till 3 o'clock in the afternoon,
and they have nothing to talk about.
No, nothing. But what I do like about TSN's broadcast is they own that. They know, like they're whoever the host is basically like, we know we have nothing to talk about, right? So let's just do something.
So they
weird.
they show clips of them eating lunch and stuff.
Yeah, they actually had the lunch on the table.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was nuts. That was
So I have one question and one comment.
Mm-hmm.
I read somewhere that because the Canadians accommodated Thomas Plekanec, and I don't know what that even means,
Me too.
the trade can end up being sweeter for the Canadians than it actually is. What does that even mean?
Oh, I don't know. Is it a conditional pick? Is that why?
I don't know. I think because maybe he didn't have a no trade clause, but they
Right.
asked him maybe where would you like to go, and so they
Right.
accommodated him, and so since they did that, he may end up re-signing with Canadians in the summer.
Oh, yeah, that I've heard, but I don't know if it has to do with accommodating him. I did hear that, him and Bergevin basically had a conversation, and let's just say, I won't be shocked, and I don't think any Habs fans will be shocked if at the end of this summer, come July 1st, he signs back with the Habs.
Okay, I'm not sure why they would need him, but that's a whole other
No,
story.
I mean, he was making like $5-6 million this year, right?
Well, he's not worth
that's
that.
obviously prohibitive, right? You can't do that. If he wants to sign for $1 million, maybe I take it. Maybe I take him. But honestly, it's time to move on.
Yeah, and
It's time to move on.
This is the other thing I wanted to say. The Leafs are actually a good team.
Yeah, they are.
If they're all healthy, I think he's going to be a healthy scratch. I don't even think he's going to crack the lineup.
Well, who's their fourth line center right now?
Well, it's him, but they're not healthy.
Well, what's interesting is they have Dominic Moore already, right? I was like, why do they need Thomas Plekanec if they have Dominic Moore? It's like this, he's just a better version, or they're the same thing, it's. I didn't look. I guess
whatever.
The Leafs felt like they wanted to try to go for it and make a move, but like you said, Mark Letestu, Thomas Plekanec, he's not an impact player. He's not. What is he going to do for them? Honestly,
Speaking of the Atlantic Division, so between the Leafs and the Lightning and the Bruins, who all made moves.
Yeah.
First of all, the Lightning were the best team before the trade deadline.
Yeah.
And I think they're still the best team after the trade deadline.
Now they have Ryan McDonough, right?
Exactly.
I mean,
so
it's like a big 1-2 punch there, Hedman and McDonough. That's two really, they're both such great two-way defensemen. You know what I mean? Offensive zone, defensive zone. They do everything. And McDonough is just another version of Hedman. It's just so. I think Tampa's fantastic. I told you last week.
Yeah.
I think they're great. They're loaded, but the playoffs is a lot of luck and
yeah, you don't play the games on paper.
Getting out of the Eastern Conference is not going to be easy.
Yeah,
let's assume Tampa wins a division, right? So they get to play the wild card.
Yeah.
So they're going to end up playing who? New Jersey or
Pittsburgh, maybe.
No, well, Pittsburgh's in in third in the Atlantic.
Are they? Okay.
Actually, Carolina right now is in that last wild card spot, battling with Columbus and Florida, right? So whoever wins that has the best record, which is Tampa by a long shot. As long as they should win the division, they're going to have the easier matchup in the first round. But the other teams are going to kill each other. Boston's going to have to play Toronto. That's going to be a crazy series, right? And then the same thing can be said in the Metropolitan. By the way, I'm going to toss in a listener mail right now.
Mm-hmm.
We like to do a listener mail every week.
We're the only show presently in production that cares enough about you, the North American home viewer, to answer our viewer mail on the air.
I got a text this week from friend of the show, Mark from Philadelphia, and he was basically doing cartwheels because the Flyers were in first place in the Metropolitan for a cup of coffee.
For 15 minutes?
Yeah, well, they were there for a day or two. I mean, right now, Washington passed them, but the Flyers are in a playoff spot, and they were in first. And what I'm getting at is finishing first in the division is a big deal also, because Washington, right now, if you're in second in that Metropolitan, you're playing Pittsburgh, right? In the first round.
And Pittsburgh could finish second, actually. They're only a point behind Philly.
But Pittsburgh, Philadelphia are probably going to end up playing each other if things ended the way they are now, right? So it's going to be a real war to get out of the East, honestly. We've spent most of the last 20 years almost where the West seemed to always be a bit stronger, but not anymore. The East are really loaded. When you see Tampa, Toronto, Boston, Washington, Pittsburgh, these are these are teams, you know? These are like real teams. So
I hear what you're saying.
yeah, and you know, in the West, you know, you have Vegas, who I know you're cheering for.
I
but, like,
am because it'll
how
make,
real are they? You know,
You know what? If Vegas wins the cup, it's going to sort of prove what I've been saying for years,
yeah,
which is, and I'm getting off topic here, but you know how I've said to you many times that I could be a general manager of a hockey team or a baseball team. I don't know enough about football and basketball, but hockey and baseball, I could be a general manager. I could run a team. I've owned enough fantasy teams. I could do it.
I don't like that comparison with the fantasy teams.
No, but
I don't think you're helping your argument.
I can totally do it. I mean, and if you talk to an actual general manager in any sport, they make their job seem so complicated and that they're such geniuses and that only like 30 people in the world can do this job.
Right,
But
right.
it's not that complicated. I'm sorry to tell you. It's really not that it's not like you have to go to school to learn about how to be a lawyer or how to be
You
an
don't have to
engineer.
go to school at all. Actually,
or-
most general managers are completely uneducated.
Exactly. Or how to be, you know, a brain surgeon. So my point is, here you have this team Vegas, and yes, they have a real general manager. But how bad would it make all those other 30 general managers look if an expansion team wins the Stanley Cup in their first year? That to me would be the ultimate. I would love
Speaking of that, they asked Bettman if Seattle, when they come into the league, are they going to have the same expansion rules as Vegas? And he said yes, because it was part of the agreement, right?
Well, I'm sure that Seattle said, hey, if we come in and we're paying all this money, we want the same benefits that Vegas got.
Yeah. So like 2020, Seattle wins the cup too.
And by the way, I've said this before and I'll say it again. The reason Vegas got such a good team, one of the reasons that Vegas got such a good team is because normally when there's an expansion team, there's two that come in at the same time. And
Yeah,
so they have to
you mentioned
draft
that.
against each other. So they can't all get all the best players. But
Here
Vegas
there was just them.
Vegas didn't have to draft against anyone, and Seattle won't have to draft against anyone.
Yeah. I wonder. It should be interesting. Like, I think when Seattle comes into the league, no one's going to take them lightly because they're going to say, hey, you know, look at Vegas, right?
Now, the nightlife in Seattle, not exactly the same as Vegas.
No, but Seattle's a perfectly nice city.
I
I'd
know,
love
but
to
I
play
mean,
there.
if you're
Yeah.
if you're claiming that the players are getting distracted because they're going to Vegas and they're too busy doing other stuff, then
Well,
you
they
know.
have the best home record in the league, right? Vegas, right?
Did you hear there was a team that went to Vegas for a road game and they arrived only the day of the game because they didn't
That's
want
smart.
and they actually
That's
and they
smart.
won the game. I forget which
Yeah.
team it was, but they won the game.
Well, they always used to say, I remember when we were growing up and through the 80s and 90s, they always used to say, like, when the road team would come into Montreal, if they were there a day early, sometimes, there was a huge disadvantage because then they would be out all night partying.
Right.
Or at Chez Paré.
Exactly.
By the way, for people outside of the Montreal area, Chez Paré is a noted topless strip club.
And same thing actually. The Raptors, they like to have a lot of Sunday afternoon games because Toronto apparently has like one of the best nightlifes in the NBA.
I find that hard to believe.
Me too, but apparently it does. And
Yeah.
so players come from, you know, all over the NBA and they stay on Saturday night because they have a Sunday day game and they go out on Saturday night, they party, and then they're not fully awake for the Sunday day game.
The Raptors are trying to take advantage of the schedule by dominating Sunday afternoons.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the Raptors are dominating the league, period.
They are.
And whatever, yeah.
Anyway, I wanted to, before we forget, I wanted to say something else about Thomas Plekanec. So you heard this, I'm sure. He gets traded to Toronto. He had to shave his beard.
So stupid.
This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I know the Yankees do this. I didn't know the Leafs did this.
Me neither.
But like, you're an athlete in baseball, football, hockey, basketball, whatever. If you want to have a beard, have a beard. Like, it's not like you're working in an office or you're an actor and you have to look a certain way. You're an athlete. Who cares if you have a beard?
But also, it's not like Plekanec has like the Brett Burns, Joe Thornton grizzly beard.
Right, which I'm glad you brought that up. So Brent Burns is an all-star.
Yeah.
Let's say the Leafs had an opportunity to acquire Brent Burns, an all-star.
They'd make him shave that beard.
Would they make him shave that beard?
I don't know. If they do, that's stupid.
That's crazy.
Because, you know, Plekanec's beard is like this carefully trimmed thing. It's like perfection, right? It's not like he looks bad. You know, it's not like he
Yeah.
was bad.
I can't believe in 2018 that there
Yeah.
are teams that have a rule that you can't have facial hair. It
And
boggles
they
my
asked him
mind.
about his turtlenecks. You heard about
Oh
this?
no, I didn't hear this. I want to hear about
Oh,
this.
they asked him about his turtlenecks, and he said, "Oh, the good thing is that the turtlenecks that he wears are blue, so they're gonna fit perfectly. He doesn't have to get new
Oh, I
turtlenecks.
see.
They're gonna work
But did
perfectly
they
for the
ask
Leafs."
him why he wears the turtlenecks?
He likes them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He said he might get some new white turtlenecks to go with the white uniforms.
Okay. And since okay, this was my next topic, but since you mentioned the word uniforms, we need a new segment on the show.
Oh.
Because I talk about this almost every episode, and we don't have a segment, but we
This
need
is bad uniforms. Is that it?
well, no, just uniforms in general. We need a uniform segment on every episode because I bring it up all the time.
I've been talking to some of the guys, and some of them, I don't want to mention any names, but some of them not too happy with the polyester uniforms.
Either a team will use a new uniform, or like in the
Yeah.
NBA, each team has 8 and I can't tell who's who, or
Yeah.
or a team will give someone a certain jersey number and I'm stunned that they wouldn't retire that number. I talk about uniforms all the time, so we need a
Now
segment.
I know why. I think I know why you want to talk about this. Go ahead.
Well, did you watch the outdoor game last night?
I knew it. I
Okay,
knew it.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Give me a minute. I have to talk here. So, first of all, we all know the reason for the outdoor games. It's a money grab. They want to sell thousands of tickets. They want to make money. And then, of course, every time there's an outdoor game, the team trots out a brand new uniform. So all the diehard fans are like, oh, I have to get that jersey. I have to get that hat. I have to get that t-shirt, So, of course, yesterday, Washington and Toronto played each other in Annapolis, Maryland, and both the Capitals and the Leafs had these new uniforms that they're only going to
Yeah.
use once.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you the Caps jersey was actually, the whole uniform was very nice.
Yeah. Well, the Caps have always had nice jerseys, all pretty much, except like the Jagger years there. That
Oh,
blue
that
and
was
black,
terrible. Yes,
that
that
was
was
bad.
bad.
But anytime they went with like the red, white, and blue colors, all the Caps jerseys are nice.
Right.
Yeah.
So then you have the Leafs, who come out with white pants and
Yeah.
white gloves.
Yeah.
You want to have a white sweater and white socks? Fine. That's been going on in the league for years, forever.
Yeah.
But white pants and white gloves,
They're basically invisible
it was awful.
on the white ice with the white boards. They're invisible.
It was awful, and whoever made that decision should be fired.
Actually, I saw on Twitter last night many people reacting the same way as you, saying it's one of the worst uniform choices they've ever seen in the NHL.
It's awful. And by the way, you didn't watch the NHL All-Star game, but the Pacific Division, because there were
you
4
mentioned
different
it.
teams, they had almost the same exact uniform. They had white pants and white gloves. Awful.
The Leafs should have come out with the Cooperall. Remember the Cooperall?
Oh, yeah, that would have been better than this, as long as it wasn't white.
Yeah, well, it would have been. At least it would have been like all white.
I don't know, but did you watch any of the game last night, by the way?
No, I didn't watch. I watched for a couple seconds. I mean, I flipped the channel and I saw. I did have on my rundown that I wanted to mention this to you. So, like, there was a power failure.
Yes. So I'm glad you brought this up. So interesting what they do in these outdoor games. I don't know if you know, halfway through the third period, the buzzer sounds at exactly the 10-minute mark. Even if someone's on a breakaway,
They switch
they
sides. or
switch
clean
ends,
the
so
ice.
each team
Yeah,
will have the same amount of time with the wind,
right.
which is good and bad, because if a guy's on a breakaway and the buzzer goes, that's pretty bad.
But yesterday there was some extreme wind, right? Like in the northeastern United States, Washington, New York, Boston, whatever. They've had some extreme weather, and I know the wind was really like they were considering not having the game because the wind was so strong, right?
Fair enough. Anyway, they switched, and then just after the buzzer went, there's a power failure. Or the lights went out, because not all the lights went out, so it couldn't have been a power
there was
failure.
a power failure. Yeah, 15 minutes it lasted, right? 14 minutes.
Something like that. So, anyway, I know this happened. It happened in the Super Bowl also a few years ago.
Yeah.
I'm sure you recall that.
That was in New Orleans. That was because of Beyonce's hairdryer.
Was it?
No, but that's what I always say it was, right? They have all the power at the Superdome in New Orleans. It's basically like the whole world is watching, and then the power goes out. And it's like because Beyonce probably tried to plug in her curling iron and her hairdryer, and then there you go. That was one too many things.
That's the most logical explanation I've heard yet.
Now, the thing about yesterday, is that something that really bothered me, and it should bother the NHL. It should bother Bettman, but I'm sure he's going to paint the rosy picture like as if nothing happened.
Because he always does.
NBC, because the game was 14 minutes longer than it was supposed to be, the game was on NBC, right?
Yeah.
The regular NBC.
Right, but I wasn't watching on NBC, but yes.
They did not want to delay the start of Saturday Night Live.
Live from New York, it's Saturday night!
So the conclusion of the Leafs game, the Leafs-Caps game, was on NBC Sportsnet. They took it off of regular NBC and put it only on NBC Sportsnet with like 10 minutes to go in the game.
See, I didn't know this. This is bad. This is really bad.
Well, I mean, we don't know this because we watch on Canadian channels, so we don't have this problem, you know? But American viewers, you know, NBC's supposed to be the broadcast partner of the NHL. They're supposed to be representing the NHL throughout the United States, where apparently it's such an important market and they got to grow the game and all this. And what have we been hearing for all these years? You know, so if they're such an important broadcast partner, they need to, you know, have the game on the network that they said it was going to be on, you know?
Absolutely. I didn't even realize that happened. And I mean, yes,
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. Gary Bettman should be embarrassed by that.
Yeah, I mean, I know it was a great episode of Saturday Night Live last night. I don't know if you know, Charles Barkley was the host.
I didn't know who hosted, and I don't watch the show, so I know nothing about it.
Saturday Night Live is an interesting show because it used to be something that you would have to wait up for because you could only have one chance to watch it, and you didn't want to miss anything.
Mm-hmm.
But now, you just catch it on YouTube the next day.
I've never been a fan of that show. Like, I've
No, I
watched
know
it,
you
but I've never, like, the times that I watch it, I find
Yeah.
myself saying, that wasn't
What's the big
funny.
deal?
And
Yeah,
then the next skit, that wasn't funny. And then the next skit, like, there's maybe one segment per episode, which is, 90 minutes, right?
Yeah.
There's maybe one segment per episode that I actually like.
Right, okay. I mean, I haven't watched in years. Like I said, if I see something online on social media, hey, this was really funny, I'll watch it, you know? Mm-hmm. But it's not like I'm not staying up on Saturday night to watch that, you know? So
I want to talk about college basketball.
me too. That was the next thing on my list.
Okay. So, first of all, I know this is old news now and we sort of talked about it, but Duke had a game this past Monday, which was actually televised in Canada. And I recorded it. And I found out the score before watching it. And when I saw that Duke lost by 1, I'm like, well, I should watch the last 5 minutes because if they lost by 1, it must have been an interesting finish.
You should have asked me. I would have told you not to watch.
Well,
it was like watching a car crash.
I'm glad I watched because Duke had like a 7-point lead with 5 minutes to go. And I knew the final score. I'm like, how did Duke blow this game? A 7-point lead with 5 minutes to go. How did they blow this game? And then I'm watching, and then they still have a lead with like seconds left in the game. I'm like, okay, there must have been a typo on my app. There's no way Duke can lose this game because they have a lead with less than a minute. I don't understand. Then I see what happened. Like, I actually saw it. It was, first of all, it was a lousy shot by some Virginia Tech kid. It was an air ball. There happened to be another guy just standing under the basket. He grabs the ball and puts it in, and they win.
But that shot should never even happened. Like, they all they had to do was like have one good offensive possession in the last 2 minutes of the game, and they would have won.
Duke didn't score a field goal in the last, I think, 6 minutes of the game. Not one field goal. How do you go 6 minutes without scoring a field goal?
Yeah, it exposed everything that's wrong about this version of Duke, this 2018 version of Duke. It exposed everything that's wrong. You know, like, they don't have good enough shooting. And when they do have the shooting, it's streaky in Grayson Allen, you know, and I mean, the announcer called out Bagley during that game. You didn't watch the whole game.
No, I heard what he said, Doc.
You heard, right? He basically said he's selfish. He doesn't pass. He doesn't play defense. And I agree. You know, like, so let's go through the rest of the week. So Duke played North Carolina last night.
No, but I want to finish. I have to say some things about Duke before you go to the North Carolina game.
Sure. Okay, go ahead.
So it's interesting because, you know, yes, we're Duke fans, but I am not one of those blind Duke fans. If something goes wrong or if they do something wrong, I say it. Like, I'm the first to admit it. There are lots of Duke fans out there who will never say anything negative or bad about the program, the team, what any of the players. Right. But you know, you've heard me say numerous times how I can't stand Grayson Allen.
Yeah.
Well, because of Marvin Bagley, I actually find myself feeling bad for Grayson Allen. Because you noticed that when Bagley was out, Grayson Allen was playing much better and the team was playing much better.
Yeah.
And since he came back, it seems like the same problems are creeping up again.
Yeah. And actually, can I segue to
Yes.
last night?
So I didn't see any of the game, but I know that Duke defeated North Carolina. Yes.
I saw all the highlights. I read all the quotes. Duke was losing by 10 at the half.
I didn't even know that.
And basically, Coach K, I could read you some of the quotes. I have it here to give you the quotes. And I saw the highlights of the press conference. He basically told them at the halftime, you guys are playing with like the weight of the world on your shoulders. Just forget that and go out and just play like, play instinctive, have fun. And he went on to say, like, I didn't call any plays. Like, I'm not going to call any plays. I just want you guys to go out and play. Just go out and play. And they completely destroyed North Carolina in the second half.
So what the moral of that story is that Coach K should just not show up and let them play?
I read it as the moral of the story is they're too young to be able to do whatever he's trying to get them to do. You know what I mean? They're all 18 years old or 19 years old. And Coach K is trying to shove a system down their throat that they can't grasp. Like, you need more than a few months to be able to play the way he wants them to play. And the only way they're going to be successful is if they just go out and maximize their skills, by playing how they know, right?
Okay.
But I want to tell you, I am one of those blind Duke fans that you just mentioned, because I can't remember the last time I filled in my bracket for March Madness and I did not have Duke as the champion.
There's been years where I have not picked Duke. Many years where I have not picked Duke to win it all.
Even years when I knew they're bad, I still picked them. Right?
Okay.
It's like I can't not pick them.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to tell you something now. I don't know if I told you this last episode or if I told you this on the phone this week or in text.
You texted
This
me.
is going to be like the first year in my that I can remember. I'm not going to pick them. I'm just not going to pick them. It's such an unlikable team. Like, I find it hard to root for them. Like, for the same reason you said. Like, if Grayson Allen's your big star, how can you root for this guy? Like, he's so unlikable. So it makes it hard to, it's hard to cheer for them. And then Bagley is their other big star. And I've never disliked a superstar that we've had in so long, like ever, no matter what big superstar they get, you always say, oh, this guy's really good. This guy's really good, and like, I just don't like him. I don't like the way he plays. I don't like his little left-handed shots. I don't like how as soon as he gets the ball, it doesn't move. It's like, a shot's going up.
Well, you can't not like him because he's left-handed. That's not his fault.
No, it's just his shot is ugly, if you ask me.
But here's the thing. I agree with you partly that I don't trust this team to win it all, because whatever team wins it all is going to have to win 6 straight games, and 4 of those games are going to be against good teams.
And there's going to be one game where Grayson Allen is going to go 1 for 8 from 3-point range, and then we're going to lose. That's what's going to happen.
However, that said, there is no good team in all of college basketball this year, because if you look at the rankings, every week the top 4 change. Every week, who's ever in the top 4, that seems like all of them lose or 3 of the top 4 lose. So while I don't trust Duke, I don't trust Villanova either. I don't trust Purdue either. I certainly don't trust Virginia either. So it's like, who do you trust? It's basically, it's a crapshoot.
Now, speaking of Virginia, I don't know if you saw or heard or watched how they beat Louisville this week.
Yes, I heard all about it and I saw the highlights, and that was even more stunning than how Duke lost.
This is the most improbable, shocking, it's impossible. It is impossible that they won this game, yet they did.
Because they were down by 4 with 9 seconds
I'm
left?
going to give you, I have the timeline here up on my screen because I knew we would talk about this. They're up by 4 with 5 seconds left.
No, they're down by 4.
I mean, they're down by 4. Sorry, they're down by 4 with 5 seconds left.
Yes.
With 0.9 seconds on the clock, they get fouled shooting a 3.
Which you should never foul anyone when you have a 4-point lead.
A 4-point lead. They should just let him take the shot, game over.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
So they foul him. Okay. He's going to take his 3 free throws now. It's still well in hand. Even if he hits all 3, Louisville's still up by 1. Even if he their best hope is going to be that he's going to miss one on purpose, right?
The
Like,
last
at some
one.
point. Okay.
The goal.
hits the first two.
The key is to miss the last one on purpose.
Yeah. Now he hits the first two.
Although the second one almost didn't go in, from what I'm told.
Now they're down by 2,
Yeah.
Virginia.
Yeah.
And on the third one, there's a lane violation
By Virginia.
against Louisville. By Virginia, against themselves.
Yes.
Right? Against themselves.
Yes.
So, okay, Louisville gets to take the ball out of bounds, game over.
Yeah.
They just inbound the ball, game over.
Yeah,
Now,
exactly.
there's still 0.9 seconds. The clock hasn't moved. Now, the guy forgets that he's not allowed to run the baseline because it's not a normal inbound.
Correct.
It's the lane violation inbound.
Yep.
And he runs the baseline, and then they turn the ball over.
Yes.
Virginia inbounds. The guy takes a prayer shot, goes in, and they win the game.
Insane.
It's like
But this
those
is
kind of plays make me start to wonder whether Virginia can win the national championship.
well. You can also look at it from the other side. Louisville has had such a miserable year with all the sanctions and everything, and this just epitomizes their season.
Yeah.
So
So, I mean, did you want to talk, while we're on the subject of college basketball, did you want to talk about any of this, like Arizona, Sean Miller?
I
Are
mean,
you following it?
I'm
Or-
definitely following it. It's interesting that the report says he said and did something, and then he came out and denied everything. So it's like one person's word against another person's word.
Jerry, just remember, it's not a lie if you believe it.
ESPN came out with this thing saying not that they have the tape, but there exists a recording of him saying that money was changing hands.
Right.
And other news outlets pointed out that ESPN's timeline is completely wrong because they're saying that this money changed hands in 2017 and the kid already committed to Arizona in 2016, right? So
someone must be wrong somewhere, but I don't know who's wrong.
ESPN acknowledged that their timeline was wrong in the article and they fixed it, but it's still wrong. So that's when the coach of Arizona, which was weird, like that's when the coach of Arizona came out and said, I didn't do this. But he didn't just come out and say, I didn't do this. He like vehemently denied it. Like he was like left no doubt.
Okay,
But
I have questions. A,
Yeah, sure.
why did he
Yeah.
wait a week to come out and say that if he really
Yeah,
didn't do it? And B, if he didn't do it, why did he sit himself out of a game?
well, there's questionable whether he sat himself out or whether the school made him sit out.
Okay, but why would the school make him sit out if he's
Well, I
telling
think-
them that he didn't do it?
Yeah, well, these are good questions. These are good questions. Certainly, it looks like it's a guilty looking thing to do, right? You get accused of this, then you don't coach your team, and then you come back 2 days later and say, "Yeah, I didn't do this." Well, why'd you not coach? And I don't know. This whole thing. Now we're gonna get into the world of politics, like.
No, I don't want to talk about politics.
No, but like I just want to make a comparison. Like this kind of thing really like upsets me because the way the world is going right now is that like you could say anything. You could say anything. Someone could, you're accused of something, you say I didn't do it. Okay, you didn't do it. So the people who like you, they agree with you. The people who don't like you, they don't agree with you. And the truth is not important anymore. Like the value of what really happened, it doesn't even matter because if you like Arizona, you're going to say he didn't do it. If you don't like Arizona, you're going to say he's guilty of sin. And there's no in between. And the truth doesn't make any difference at all. And that's what's going on like in politics. You see what's happening with the president of the United States. He does stuff and then, he gets accused of things. He's like, no, I didn't say that. I didn't do that. And even though they have him on tape saying it, he said, I never said that. And then his supporters are like, he never said it. So like the world's going crazy. Like, honestly, the world's going crazy. And this is a symptom of that.
Yeah, I would like to hear the recording of the coach.
Me too. I would
and-
love to hear it.
And the thing is, even if we get to hear it, you don't even know if it's really him, right? Because it's an audio recording. It could be someone
Yeah.
that sounds like him. The recording could have been altered. So you never know.
Honestly, like, and now did you hear about this thing? There's some players that said they want to They're saying that NCAA players should boycott the Final Four.
Yes. Okay. So I have some strong opinions about that.
Yeah.
I heard that, Jay Williams, a former Duke player, is one of the guys who said that the players should boycott the Final Four.
Yeah, I forget who else. Maybe Barkley or Jalen Rose?
LeBron James was one of them.
LeBron James never played college basketball, so he shouldn't have any say in this.
But, you know, it's easy for LeBron James or Jason Williams to say these things because right now they have jobs, they're getting paid lots of money, and they don't have to worry about anything. But think about it. Let's say you're a college player and someone's telling you should boycott the Final Four. First of all, you have nothing to gain by boycotting the Final Four because even if it works and the NCAA caves in and decides to pay the players, they're not going to pay you. They're going to pay the players next year or the year after that or the year after that. Like maybe they'll change something down the road. They're not going to change something this year. So you, the player, who this is your only chance to play in the Final Four in your lifetime, you're going to decide to boycott. You're going to get nothing out of it.
No, they're not going to boycott. And not only that, like how many players in the Final Four? The Final Four is going to have 4 teams. There's 12 players on each team, right? Mm-hmm. Or whatever it is, 48 players. Out of those 48 players, how many players are going to the NBA out of the Final Four teams? 6, 5, 7?
Something like that.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? But for the rest of those guys, for the other 40 players, this is the highlight of their entire life.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of like up till now and maybe forever.
Yeah.
It's something they're going to look back on forever. You know that famous, I wish I had the exact quote right now. Tom Izzo. It's in One Shining Moment from like 3 years ago. They have a clip of Tom Izzo in the dressing room with his Michigan State team.
Just give me 2 hours and you're gonna have 50, 60, 70 years of memories. 2 hours. Can you sacrifice and reach down and give me 2 hours so you can have memories for you, your family, your kids, and your kids' kids? That's the memory.
This is the pinnacle of their college career, you know, and for a lot of them, this is going to be it. You know, they're not going on to the NBA; they're going on to regular jobs. You know, their regular lives, like me and you. You know, so the notion of boycotting the Final Four is ridiculous.
That said, the players do deserve some sort of financial compensation. 100%.
I don't disagree with that.
But I mean, boycotting the Final Four is not going to solve anything.
Well, I mean, maybe it will, maybe it won't, but it's not going to happen. You know, it's just not going to happen. Right. Yeah.
So I want to go back to a subject we talked about a few minutes ago, the Duke game against Virginia Tech.
Mm-hmm.
Not to be confused with Virginia.
Yeah.
So I actually watched parts of that game. The Virginia Tech coach, Buzz Williams.
He's a bit unstable.
He bothers me. He actually bothers me, and I'll tell you why. First of all, throughout the entire game, he's very animated on the bench. He's like flailing his arms. He's yelling and screaming, but he's not yelling and screaming like complaining about calls. He's just yelling and screaming, and it doesn't look like he's even directing it at anybody in particular.
Right.
And then in the second half of the game, when the fans were getting unruly he grabs the microphone from the PA announcer and says something like, calm down, or I don't know what he said to the fans.
Stop cussing is exactly what he said. Stop swearing, but he used the very, Virginia word, like stop the cussing.
Right. And then, actually, before that, I don't know if you saw the halftime interview as, the players are going into the locker room. They grab one of the coaches and they ask him a question.
Yeah, I saw, yeah.
His answer was like, first of all, I don't even think he answered the question.
No, he
didn't. But he went on and on about like quantum physics and I don't know what else he was talking about. And like, I don't even know if he knew what he was talking about. Like this guy, I honestly believe has some issues that he needs to resolve. I don't know that he's stable enough to be a head coach or hold down any actual job. And I truly believe that he just wants to be the center of attention because all those things that he did during the game, he just wants to be the star of the show.
It was wild to see him grabbing the mic. He's grabbing the mic to address the fans. I was like, what's he doing? It was so weird, no?
It was the whole thing, the grabbing the mic, the halftime interview, the way he was behaving on the sidelines throughout the game. Yeah. It was the weirdest thing. I don't...
Are they a tourney team right now, Virginia Tech? They're on the bubble,
well,
I think, right?
Because they defeated Duke, they now have a chance to get in.
Right, okay.
But like, that was just so weird. So weird.
Very weird. All right. What else you got?
Well,
my list is done.
Okay, I have a couple other things. Still with college basketball.
Oh, great.
This I'm sure you know. You know all the conference tournaments haven't started yet.
No, this week, yeah.
Except the Big Ten conference tournament ends today. It ends today. Have you heard about
Since
this?
when does that? No, I didn't even know this.
Okay, so this is big news. So all
But why is it at a different time?
Okay, so all the conference tournaments start like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of this week, depending on how many teams.
And it finishes on Saturday or Sunday.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
the Big Ten, which is not, some tiny little conference.
No. The Big Ten is Michigan, Michigan State, Indiana, Wisconsin.
Yes.
These are legit schools.
They started their conference tournament, I think it was Wednesday. And it ends today. And I will tell you why. Because for some reason, the Big Ten, and it's obviously for money, the Big Ten decided they wanted to have their conference tournament in New York at Madison Square Garden, which, by the way, there's only one team, Rutgers, that's even in the New York area.
There's no connection at all to the Big Ten with New York City.
Exactly.
None.
But they
should have it in Chicago.
Exactly. Or Detroit or Indianapolis or whatever. Yeah. But they decided to have it in New York, and they wanted to have it in Madison Square Garden. Now, because they were so adamant about having it at Madison Square Garden, it had to end today because the Big East has Madison Square Garden starting tomorrow.
Right. The Big East tournament has been in Madison Square Garden since we've been alive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now the Big Ten, which is a big conference, decided, okay, we're going to do our conference tournament a week early because we want to play it at Madison Square Garden. This is idiotic for so many reasons. Number one, whoever wins or loses, they're not going to play a game now until the tournament starts. So they could have a team that got eliminated, let's say on Thursday or Wednesday, could go 2 weeks without playing.
Yeah, that's a bit strange. Yeah.
So by the way, sure if you're aware, the final of the Big Ten is today, and it's Michigan versus Purdue.
Oh yeah, so Michigan State didn't even make it.
No.
That's wild.
They won the regular season.
Right.
Title.
Because Michigan State and Ohio State are the two highest. Oh no, Purdue. Purdue was the second best team in the Big Ten this year. Yeah.
So anyway, I just had to mention that it's ridiculous that the Big Ten would do this.
But it's so weird because the people in New York City, the fans that presumably will pay to go, because if you televise the game, does it matter where it is? No. Right. But presumably they want to sell more tickets, right?
Yes.
But what is the connection to new people in New York City or New Jersey to the Big Ten?
Well,
Nothing.
because the Big Ten added two teams a couple of years ago, Maryland and Rutgers.
Yeah, but Maryland, that's nothing to do with New York.
I know, but last year they played the tournament in Washington for Maryland, and this year they're playing the tournament in New York for Rutgers.
So I guess they figure Rutgers is a connection to New York.
Exactly.
Not really.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a joke.
I mean, Rutgers, it's New Jersey, it's close, but
it's a complete
there's no
joke.
connection at all.
It's a complete
that's
joke.
funny. Yeah. All right, what else?
So that's really all the college basketball stuff that I have for you.
Okay, good.
But I do have one more thing I wanted to talk about.
Is it bugging you?
It's not bugging me. No.
Okay.
So I'm now going to be, as you know, as you told the listeners, playing fantasy baseball again this year.
Yeah, you took over my team.
Right. So now I haven't really done fantasy baseball for years, and I had to do a little bit of research. Sure. And then it dawned on me that there's this player from Japan, Shohei Ohtani, who's supposed to be the next Babe Ruth.
I was wondering what's going to happen with him in all the fantasy baseball pools.
Right, because he's going to be a pitcher and a hitter. And so, if you've played fantasy baseball, that if you have a guy that's a pitcher, even if he hits a home run, you don't get credit for his hits. And if you have a guy that's a hitter and he happens to throw an inning and strike out a guy, you don't get credit for the strikeout.
Well, you should be able to take him as a hitter and another player as a pitcher.
So I went onto the Yahoo site, the Yahoo Fantasy site, and I was curious to see how they were going to handle this.
Is that what they're doing?
So there's two Shohei Ohtanis. There's the pitcher.
That's great. That's the way it should be.
And the hitter. So you might get one and not get the other one.
Yeah. Well, the pitcher, I think, is far more valuable because the Angels have come out and said that they see him as a pitcher.
Right.
Apparently, when he was about to sign with the Giants before the Giants were the second choice.
Yes.
And apparently Bruce Bochy promised him 350 at-bats.
Right.
Although it's much easier to get at-bats in the American League because he could DH.
Right. And he might. But the reason I bring this up is this reminds me...
Can I tell you what you're going to say?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. You're going to say, like, when we used to do hockey pools in the 80s, you were able to take Wayne Gretzky goals and Wayne Gretzky assists.
As two different players.
Yeah.
Because he was too good to have all of those points for one player.
Wayne Gretzky assist was better than any player in the league.
Yes.
Yeah.
But isn't that funny that of all the years that I've ever done a hockey pool, there's only been one player that you had to divide his goals and assists because he was too good.
Yeah, he's too good. And then when Mario came, we had the same debate. Should Mario have different goals and assists?
No,
And
but
I
we
remember
never
having a whole
split
big-
up Mario.
I don't think we ever did.
No.
No.
So
So are you going to try to draft a Tiny?
no, actually. I mean, if he's available late, I'll take him. But I don't think he's going to be available late because someone's going to be foolish and grab him really high because they're going to be
He's an unknown, right? Like you need to be careful by investing high picks in this guy because he's a total unknown. And yes, he's got tons of hype. And yes, the highlights of him look amazing. But you don't know.
No,
you don't know.
You really don't know. And so I'm not going to waste a high pick on this guy because that could ruin your entire draft.
Yeah.
If he's available late, sure. But if someone else wants
I
to
agree
take
with
him
that.
really high, go ahead, take him. I'll take someone else.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. Yeah.
So,
All right, very nice. So I wish you luck. I hope you win the baseball pool.
okay, thanks.
What's your team called?
Cubs, Camels.
Cubs Camels. Got it.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Because we're slow.
You're not going to have any base stealers or?
But we carry a lot of water.
Okay.
So,
Okay, I'm gonna close the show.
okay, close it.
What do you think about that? Close it?
Shut it down.
Shut it down. So before we sign off, remember you can listen and subscribe to new and archived episodes of the Skip and Josh podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, anywhere you listen to podcasts. We're hyping up all the time, and especially for the next 30 days, Overcast, our favorite podcast app. And if you listen through Apple Podcasts, definitely give us a review. We would love to hear from you via email to, tell us you love us, tell us you hate us, what you want us to talk about, what you don't want us to talk about. skipandjoshshow@gmail.com. We're very active on Twitter @skipandjosh, and you can like and follow our Facebook page. And as always, the links to everything I just said are on our website, skipandjosh.com. As well, when you go to skipandjosh.com, make sure you sign up for our email list.
I love it.
All right, I'll talk to you later.
Okay.
The Skip and Josh podcast is over now. Don't worry, there'll be another episode soon.